You're more real than the ground I'm standing on. You're more real than the wind in my lungs. Your thoughts define me. You're inside of me. You're my reality. You're so real to me. Abba, I belong to you. Abba, I belong to you. Yes, I do. Abba, I belong to you. Every part. Abba, I belong to you. Closer than the skin on my bones. Closer than the song on my tongue. You're close. Your thoughts define me. You're inside of me. You're my reality. Jesus, you're so real to me. Yeah. Abba, I belong to you. Oh, I want to. Abba, I belong to you. I give it all. I give it all. Abba, I belong to you. You're so worthy of it all. Abba, I belong to you. You came running down my prodigal road. You came running with a ring and a rope. Grace is the collision on the way back home, with the arms of a father that won't let go. I remember now. You came running down my prodigal road. I still remember that you came running with a ring and a rope. Grace is the collision on the way back home, with the arms of a father, oh, that won't let go. You
I'll never leave your side, I'll be here when you call. And there's no judgment, you don't have to be scared at all. If your world comes crashing down, one thing will remain true, that I will always be here watching over you. You are a champion, you are a king, and all the power of the universe dwells within you. You must have confidence, 'cause you're made to win. And if ever you can't hear my voice, just listen inward. I'll give you my ear so you can feel free to talk. Express your ideas and let me hear all your thoughts. And whatever goes down, you can always come to me. 'Cause whether father or friend, whatever you need, I'll be. Stand on my shoulders so you can see that there is nothing in this world you can't achieve. It is your future, and you hold the key. So never be afraid to lead and rule your destiny. Watch out for friends who will try to take away what you've earned. Their agenda is hidden, but you've got to discern. 'Cause when the party is over and everyone's had their fun, they've got their own lives to live and you've got your race to run. My son, run like a champion, lead like a king. Know all the power of the universe dwells within you. You must have confidence, 'cause you're made to win. And if ever you can't hear my voice, son, just listen inward. I've invested the best years of my life raising you, and it came at a cost, but there are no charges due. Still in return, there's just one thing that I want you to do. Take care of each other as I took care of you.
Corey, happy Father's Day and congratulations on a very well-written song.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that.
I want to ask you about that song. There are few father's songs out there, and your father's song is unique among the father's songs I've heard because it carries the perspective of father to son. Tell me about this song. When did you write it?
I actually wrote this song about 2 years ago. And of course, just waiting around on the perfect time to release it, when I had a video budget and promotional budget and all of that. But this has been a learning experience for me in that sometimes I have to just do it, rather than waiting around and, for things to be perfect. So after waiting 2 years, 2 years after writing this song, it's finally coming out now.
And when did you put it together? You wrote it 2 years ago, but did you also go into studio at the same time?
Yeah, man. Yeah, man. I have a studio set up at home, and that's where I do the writing. And my process is a little different in that uh, for this particular song, everything kind of came together at once. So there was the music and a lyric idea, and then melodies, and it kind of all happened at once. Most people write with a pen and paper. I write music with a microphone.
Right. Why did you write the song?
It's an interesting question. Why did I write this song? Well, I'm very much into my children. I think they are the most interesting people in the world. My children, and
How
they
many do
pretty
you
much
have?
two boys,
Hmm.
and they pretty much have my heart. And so I figured. Well, actually, I was driving at one point, and I thought, I really should write a song that speaks to them. A song almost exclusively for them, and that's essentially what happened. I went into the studio and decided, okay, what would I say to these children? What would I say to them if I needed to leave a message to them? What would it be? And what ended up happening was me just writing what I normally speak to them anyway. So when you listen to that song, you're kind of eavesdropping on conversations with me and my children.
One of the first thoughts that came to mind as I listened to the lyrics were, I wonder if this song is real. Because there's a tendency, I want to write a mother song or I want to write a father
Right,
song.
right.
And yeah, so that's very interesting to know. The one thing that I really don't get about the song is its name. Why did you call it "I'll Be Here"?
The truth is, I was struggling to find a title because it's not like, okay, I didn't set out to write a song in the traditional sense. So if you notice, there is no real strong chorus or hook, in this song. It's really just conversations with me and my children. Now, how do you title a conversation? You know what I mean? It was a struggle for me. So I called up Mikey Bennett. I sent the song to him and I said, look, I need a title. Turns out Mikey Bennett was at the titles office doing some business. so it was quite interesting that I chose him. And within like 2 minutes, he listened to the song and texted me back and thought, I'll be here. So we have Mikey Bennett to thank for that.
The song, I realize, is personal, but it also has a theological dimension. You get the sense that the one who is speaking is not just a person, but also a spirit.
Wow, you're exactly right. The intention was to say something that would speak to them long after I was unable to speak to them, if you know what I mean. So it does take on that spiritual kind of energy.
What are your
Thanks for noticing that.
Yeah. What are your hopes for this song, Corey? What do you want this song to achieve in putting it out there?
Well, the original intent was to leave a strong message for my children and hopefully their children and their children. But as an artist, you do hope that your song takes off and runs the world, you know what I mean, and just becomes a huge mega success. So if it does what it was initially intended to do, I'd be happy. And then if it becomes a huge success all over the world, that's just brilliant.
Thank you. Thank you for writing it. Thank you for sharing it with us. Bless you, my brother.
Thank you so much for having me, man. Love, respect.
I think it was in 2016 or so when it was actually Father's Day, and my father and I were out in the backyard picking mangoes, and we were basically finished picking all of the mangoes, and we picked over 100 mangoes, and we were finished picking the mangoes, and he decided to go get one last mango, and he climbed further up in the tree, and the branch didn't hold, and he fell out of the tree. And I remember just being in shock and taken aback, and the whole family was just in distress because my father was injured and we had to take him to the hospital, and it was a big situation. And in that moment, and looking back at that moment, I just contemplate at how much I value my father, how much my father means to me, that we could have lost him in that moment, but he's here. And that in every capacity of our lives, my father is there, and he always puts out the best. He's always
the one at the forefront. He's always the one that is there to deal with the situation. And having him in our lives is a true gift, is a true pleasure. And on this Father's Day, I want to wish my father the best Father's Day. We're happy to have him in our lives. Daddy, we want to wish you a happy Father's Day. And we hope that you will be here with us to have many, many more, and that we will continue to flourish as a family, and that we will be continue to be blessed by God and have a great, great day.
My dad is and has always been a source of strength, security, and comfort for me and my family. I wholeheartedly know that my dad will give up anything for us, no matter the situation, no matter how busy he is. He is the strength and the core of our family. He is truly kind-hearted, and he has supported me through every dream and everything that life has thrown my way. He has also been a wonderful example of a godly man and a godly parent in my life. And for all these things, I want to say, Daddy, I wish you a wonderful, happy Father's Day. We love you, I love you, and I just hope you enjoy it.
Two things I admire most about my dad are, one, that he goes above and beyond to make sure that we are comfortable and have everything that we need. And that's from my mother to myself and my siblings, whatever it is in life that we needed, whether it was for school or our passions and hobbies or personal endeavors, whatever it was, he ensured that we had, continues to ensure that we have everything that we need. And he pushes us to pursue the things that we are gifted in and that we love to do. That's one. And two, I admire his passion for the Lord. There are very few people that I know or have met who have the kind of passion that my father has for the Lord, for worship, for healing, and for prayer in particular. And his passion and desire for worship and just learning about the Holy Spirit, and just his life as a worshiper has inspired me as well. Because I am a worshiper, I'm a dancer, I lead a dance ministry. So that has really impacted my life, and he continues to be an example for me, someone that I look up to as a Christian, as well as a minister, and just someone being passionate for the Lord in everything that he does.
Happy
Father's Day, Dad.
Dad.
Went for a walk just the other day with my daddy right beside me. Son, what you wanna be when you grow up? I don't wanna be no policeman, cause crime is getting out of hand. No liar, no fireman. He said, what you wanna be then? Just like you. Me never ever see this, my mommy. Take care of me, you'd like you take care of me. That's who I wanna be, just like you, yeah. No, if you don't know them, daddy, thank God me know mine, and him take care of me. Daddy, I'm a general. My boss a blank for my daddy. From the day my bond, he's always been there for me. Through the ups and downs, you know you've always been around. So every day me show you love, and not just Father's Day alone. Daddy, let me tell you straight, there's no greater man I'd want to emulate. I know that Mandela and Obama great, but in my life you are my head of state. Like you, always see you kiss my mommy, hug up and squeeze and caress my mommy. That's who I wanna be, just like you, yeah. No, if you don't know them, daddy, thank God me know mine, and him take care of me. Daddy, I'm a general. Oh, genius, Spaniard, and from me a little you know me turn a big man. You ever teach me right, so know you never lead me wrong. Teach me how to love, respect, and treat a good man. Mommy says she see you when she sees my face. She smiles, so there is no disgrace. Your love puts her in a happy place. So I gotta say I wanna be like you. Treat my girl like you treat my mommy. Kill her with love but don't abuse her body. That's who I wanna be, just like you, yeah. No, if you don't know them, daddy, thank God me know mine, and him take care of me. Daddy, I'm a general. I couldn't sing another song for this my mommy. Take care of me, you'd like you take care of me. That's who I wanna be, just like you, yeah. No, if you don't know them, daddy, thank God me know mine and him take care of me. Daddy, I'm a general. Daddy, I'm a general. Oh, you know one general in Africa. General, 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 if you have a general son just like me. Genius, man, for general. Great one.
Two main father figures in my life were my father, Calvin McCullough, and my grandfather, although not my blood grandfather. He's my grandmother's husband, but he was a builder by trade, and I spent quite a while with him, especially in my early teen years. Because of him, I learned to do manly things. I was his laborer at one stage, mixing mortar for him and carrying building material. My father, he was someone that used to love use his hands. He was a technician at various hospitals. He was someone who could do anything at home. As to my grandfather now, because of his trade, I admire his ability to build things, and I learned much from him. Presently, I have a small cabinet, which is a miniature cabinet of one that was at home, that I built from scratch only because I learned from him the rudiments of carpentry. And that stands out for me. His contribution to my life in terms of doing manly things are the most important items for me in my life. I didn't grow up with my father. As a matter of fact, my earliest memory of him was when I was about 8, 9, thereabout. My prep school informed me that I was registered in my mother's name, but my birth certificate showed otherwise. My birth certificate showed that my surname was Makala. Right? So from that point, I was introduced to my father. Over the years, we have been in touch, not on a very regular basis, but we kept in touch both by phone, and I visited him and spent time with him and his new family. It was on my 21st birthday that he migrated to the United States of America, where he joined his wife and their 3 children. They are actually younger than I am. So after migrating, we kept in touch by phone until I eventually had the opportunity to visit him in the United States. And this is where, we really sort of bonded. By that time, he was living alone, so I had all the time with him. And despite this short time with him, I felt this sense of satisfaction, that I did have a father, and it meant a whole lot to me. Something that I kept on repeating to persons is that he never disowned me, and I'm really, really grateful for that.
So Fathers Inc. came about in 1991 at the UWI. The founder is Barry Chevans, Professor Barry Chevans, and what they were having, CCDC, which is Caribbean Child Development Center, was having a workshop for parents, and discovered that they, with all this parenting discussion, it was not centered around fathers. And so Janet Brown, who is considered to be the mother of Fathers Inc., interestingly, decided with Barry Chevans to have a session for fathers only. And the fathers sat down together and discussed. And core of their discussion was the fact that separate from getting money from men, people don't really care about fathers overall. So they decided to start Fathers Inc. It was called Fathers Only at the time, but women were not happy with the idea of only. In fact, one woman specifically said only women can use the word only. And so it was changed to Fathers Incorporated. So Fathers Inc. was created from this workshop. I think it's the following year it became a registered charity. And I think in 2005, by 2005, this was 1991, we had received the, uh, I think it's a National Media Award. And Fathers Inc. have been focusing on helping fathers become better. So we provide information to fathers and help fathers to understand how to relate to their families. 2006, we had a very dramatic turnaround. Barbara Gludon called one day to say that, she thinks the fact that I had just graduated from London with a PhD in violence studies and anthropology, that Fathers Inc., and since I had become the new head of Fathers Inc. in 2006, that we should be taking on the murder-suicide cases. Strange enough, we've had 130 of those cases since, because now people call us for the most vicious crimes within their families. And in fact, we've been working on those now. I think we're in the process of publishing a piece of work on murder suicide, myself and Professor Christopher Charles, on the matter of murder suicide. We've remained here at the UWI. It comes under the Department of Sociology, Psychology, and Social Work as an outreach. And we've been working with a lot of fathers. Last year, we had our 30th anniversary, which was quite big. We had, and you can go on the Faculty of Social Sciences, which is FSS, YouTube, open it and type in Daddy Matters, and you will see it. It should be about 4 hours long. You can look at whatever you want to see from that. But in those 4 hours, we covered basically almost all the issues that relate to men in by having 5 to 8 minute presentations on each of the stuff, including prostate issues and other health issues, paternity fraud. Everything is covered in that form because we wanted to have a 30th anniversary, a real hardcore academic presentation on the issues affecting father. I think we were able to track people from over 30 countries using it. So it has been useful and you can look at it. It's Faculty of Social Sciences, so that's FSS, YouTube, so that's a channel. And when you get onto it, you can type in Daddy Matters, or you can just go to YouTube and type in Daddy Matters UII, and it will pop up. Okay, so it's Daddy Matters, and we looked at 30 years of Fathers Incorporated. So we've looked at our FAR program, which is fairness, ownership, and respect, which is a model we've been using to solve problems for the last 30 years. So whenever we have a couple come to us, what we do is use a FAR program. F is for fairness, O is for ownership, and R is for respect. And by doing that, we've found that we've now solved over 200 major family conflicts using that, because people, first of all, found it very fresh that we would listen to men and women. Men were the ones who were very shocked. Some of them said they were going to their third mediation and nobody ever listened to them. So that was very new for people, sitting down and with somebody and having them listen to both sides and allowing them to speak and just guiding and facilitating the process to the point where they get to realize that both of us made an investment in this thing and both of us want it to work or don't want it to work and so forth. So we've been using that model and it has worked. We haven't lost anybody with it, and so we continue to use that model.
When I was growing up, I don't think I liked my father very much. I respected him, but I don't know if I liked him. My father was a harsh taskmaster, and nothing I seemed to do seemed to be enough for him. So for a long time, I actually resented this. But as I grew older and got into my later teenage years, I started to like myself and grew in confidence. And then I became my own harshest critic. And then the focus was on reaching my own high standards. It wasn't until I got married and had kids and moved away from Jamaica that I began to understand my father. I understood the sacrifices he made, his selflessness, his diligence, his humility, his ability to do the best that he could with the hand that he was dealt. And then I had an enormous respect for him and recognized that this was how he knew how to show love. He never talks about his childhood or his hardships, but I can sense the pain and read between the lines. Well, one summer when, as a family, we traveled back to Jamaica for vacation, and Mommy and Daddy met us at the airport. As we walked out to the terminal, Daddy ran up to me and hugged me, kissed me, and told me that he loved me. And I was shocked because this was the first time he had ever shown such affection to me or said that to me. He loved me as he knew how to love. That was how he knew how to love. I love my father dearly because he suffers quietly with confidence, but without complaining, and does the best that he can to provide for his family despite circumstances. I wish I had this perspective when I was much younger, and now every moment I spend with him is precious. I love my father dearly because of the sacrifices he made in his quiet, humble way.
Mentor in a Nation is a men's ministry partnership, which is based at Christian Life Fellowship. It is really a partnership amongst many denominational groups. So several different church leaders have come together to try to assist in empowering men to become more responsible fathers in their household, and also to highlight some of the issues that results in the growing up of children as a result of the absence of men from families. We have been training people through different programs. We seek to train Christian men and leaders in building an understanding to generate a sense of urgency and consensus relating to the role of fatherhood. We also, as man, we try to encourage and support the development of men's ministries across different churches. And we have developed a particular program that makes it very easy for different men's groups to reach men and to empower men right across different communities. We have developed some quality information through the World Needs a Father. The idea is that we take men through a structured program that speaks to issues such as the father wound, and how you get healing as a result of the father wound. Men are able to express themselves. Apart from the quality of the material, that the participants go through and express their own experience, and it gives them the opportunity to release some pent-up emotions. This program now empowers them to take responsibility and to be accountable within the family structure. We need to reach men. We need to reach men. We need to reach out to men at the community level. And I think we, especially the religious groups, we need to change how we get men involved in the church, because men want to be engaged in sports. Men want to be engaged in discussions. So we can get men involved by changing some of our programs, structuring some of our programs, having business seminars and so forth, having particular training for men, that can get them involved. And once we get them involved at a certain level, then afterwards now we're able to to invite them to church and to engage them in terms of some of the biblical principles which we know are transformational, which we know can change life. And so therefore then, it is something that we need to actively do, because we're seeing that there's a social problem as a result of the lack of men's involvement in so many different areas. If you're at the workplace, you'll see that the population is mostly female. If you go into the church, you'll see that the population is mostly female. If you go to the university, the population is mostly female. And there's a social issue. Many young women cannot find a reasonable young man to get married to. It is a problem. So we have to engage men. We have to start within the family now to engage our young sons, to guide them in these principles and to expose them to some of the dangers that are out there in our society. We can come within your community to develop these programs. We have the tools. You can send us an email and indicate your interest to us as to what sort of program you would like us to implement. Once you've sent us an email, we can give you further information in terms of the leader that we would assign for this particular program. You can also call 876-298-5215, and you'll be able to speak to someone who will give you pertinent information in terms of how you can move forward with a program of this nature.
Sometime in our lives we must look life in the eyes and then face to face with the reality. We all must see what is there and what we think should be. Then we must decide how we'll go against the tide and create a life that doing things we know we must do to fulfill our purpose on this earth. We must love and laugh for life through these goals. And then when we have come and have sung our final song, we can say we did our best. We have passed life's toughest test. We have faced adversity victoriously, uncompromising, our lives enterprising. We faced trouble smiling. Life's heroes, life's heroes, life's heroes.
In 1807, we would have had the abolition of slavery. The next date of importance is 1834, which would be the end of the abolition of slavery. And then 1838 would have been emancipation. Now, if you take those dates, fatherhood in Jamaica would begin in 1838. Now, let's look at the first report that would have had anything at all to do with family. This would have been in the 1940s. And then we had a few reports that would have looked at family. Now, those calculations showed that 18% of children had a biological father in their homes. 18, this is 1 and 8. Right? Let me cut this short for you and tell you that in 2014, 42% of children have their biological fathers in their homes. Now, if you take 1948 to now, what you're seeing is a phenomenal growth in father presence. Only 10% of Jamaican children now do not know who their father is. Now, that is tremendous progress. Now, what are these things saying? These things are saying that father presence has been climbing steadily. But I want you to pause a little bit and look at what is happening to violence. I want you to temporarily support the idea that has been found in 17 pieces of work. I will not name any of these pieces of work. I know there are 17 of them. All of them have suggested that the absence of father in Jamaica is one of the root causes. Note, one of the root causes are the root cause of violence in Jamaica. All right, so we're going to apply our common sense. We've just declared father presence to be growing in Jamaica phenomenally. This is not a debate anymore. There are people now who are seeing men with their children on their shoulders riding through halfway tree. So it is now visible. 42% of presence is a visible characteristic, is a visible reality. Now, let's go to violence. What are we seeing in violence? In the 1948, when there were only 18% of Jamaican children having access to their fathers, right, having a biological father in their homes. Remember, right after that, we had a book called My Mother Who Fathered Me. This is the era we are talking about. The murder rate for Jamaica was 3.5 per 100,000. So when father presence was absolutely poor, violence was low. In 1980, Jamaica had a civil war. Doesn't matter what you want to call it. We had a full tribal war in which over 800 people were killed. Since then, the homicide rate has not gone back down. At independence, our homicide rate was 4.2 per 100,000 in 1962. Right? At that point, we literally had only 20% of fathers, biological fathers, being present in the homes of children. The dominant family forms in Jamaica were not corporate family, as in having a mother and a father. They were sole mother and alternative, meaning neither mother nor father, because we were a young nation just making our progress. Right. Now, today, we have 42% of children having their biological fathers in their homes, and over 70% of children having active fathers. Yet, the homicide rate since the year 2000 is 46.4, 12 times higher than independence. So it means, therefore, if two factors are moving in the same direction, none opposing the other, right? We would suggest that one is either monocausal or a cause of the other. But in this context, fathers are becoming better phenomenally, but the homicide rate has increased phenomenally. It means, therefore, that if you were going to break the principle of science that says an association is not causation, let's say you ignore that completely and you just want to be simplistic, the data would be showing that father presence is causing violence. Because as father presence increases, the
But is
homicide
that true?
rate increases. No, that would be garbage. That would be the
Okay.
same thing as saying every time, every time the temperature increases, people drown, as if the temperature is drowning people. What that set of data suggests is that despite father presence increasing, murders have been increasing because there are other factors that overwhelm father presence increase. There are no other conclusions.
Okay. Dr. Gale, thank you for that wonderful presentation. And, I know you're very detailed and so on, but something comes to my mind that it is not equal because we know from empirical evidence that a father in the home brings some sense of stability.
Yes.
Right? And then, but now we are looking at the stats in Jamaica and we are saying it is not so. It is, even though they are there, then they may be, we could conclude that they are the ones who are responsible for this violence output. I am a little bit, I don't know if men now in the homes are behaving like women, or that they do not know how to manage their homes as was intended.
No.
Let me tell you the reason why I'm saying this. I'm a Jamaican father. Yes, I do not live in Jamaica, But trust me, I have the similar conditions in terms of my children to communicate. And I won't bore you by telling you how many children I have because you would think I'm absolutely mad. But at the same time, I'm saying that we do have to understand what this phenomenon is saying potentially and how do we get to it so that we can see if we can curb it because the future belongs to the young. And if we do not have an answer, we are in trouble.
Good question, Rupert. But the interesting thing about data is that data never lie. What happens is that people twist data to make a point that they wanted to do long ago. The issue is so let's see if we itemize this. Father presence is critical to a child's development. So if something that is critical to a child's development is getting better phenomenally, as I have just outlined, and yet the overall result at the national level is still a catastrophe, it means that there are other factors that have become so bad, and that are so powerful, that are at work, that diminishes the good impact that the increase in father presence is having. Let me see if I illustrate this. What have we become since fathers have been increasing rapidly? Extremely corrupt. We've had massive corruption. If I start now to look at corruption under the JLP and the PMP, we would not end this program. All right? We've had Jamaica has become a transshipment point for hardcore drugs as a middle point for Colombia, and on the other hand, the United States and Europe. We've had organized crime to the teeth in Jamaica. All right. This is what the increase of father presence is up against. So you have four ontological security benchmarks that you're seeking for. That if these four things are not better addressed, then none of the other secondaries, such as father presence, will fail. Because here are the primaries in actually reducing violence. Do people have food, meaning economic stability? B, do they have a safe environment to live in or feel safe? C, do they have parental support, right? Meaning at least one stable parent. And D, do they have opportunity structures, as in the government, community, everybody making sure that every child has a sense of tomorrow. The point for all four blocks for Jamaica is no. So it becomes impossible for us to be able to measure the increase in father presence, which should be reducing violence in Jamaica. It can't, it is helping, but it's like a man standing at a bridge where the minute he pulls his hand, the place floods. And if you look at the good fathers around, some of them are actually over stressing themselves, but it is not enough. The government has to respond. NGOs, everybody have to be on board, right? It is not a single factor. That is what the crisis is in Jamaica.
Let me make it quite clear. I agree with everything that you have said, but I also know that the women, quote unquote, who are absent are still playing a role in what is happening to the boys in particular. I just want the listeners to understand that although, we're giving you some information here, we want to, in reality, we have argued that the government has to step in. Everybody has to, the churches, everybody, every Jamaican has to step in order to resolve some of these issues, especially violence in the society. And we cannot move forward based on what you have said, and I agree with you, unless these things are addressed. And they have to be addressed in a timely manner.
Yes. So let's look at the national figures. 84% of Jamaican children have a biological mother in their home. 84%, compared to 42% for men. The gap many years ago was 1 to 4. The gap is now 1 to 2, which suggests that fathers have improved tremendously. The gap between father presence and mother presence was 1 to 4 many, many moons ago, as in over 40 years ago. Today it's 1 to 2. So 84% of Jamaican children have their biological mother in their home compared to 42% of children having their fathers in their homes. 1 to 2. Now, let's switch from the national figures to the inner city, which is where 3/4 of our violence occurs. That zone accounts for only 9.8% of Jamaica's population, but accounts for 3/4 of our hardcore violence. Now, when you go to that zone, mother presence drops from 84% for the national figures down to 52%, and fathers drop from 42 to 21%. What are you noticing? Both
Wow.
mothers and fathers have dropped, not just father alone. Now we're going to look at the final block of this. Young people who've killed someone, boys who've killed. The 21% fathers dropped to 17%. Not a big drop. The mothers dropped from 52 to 17%. These are the hardcore data. When you take the young men in my data set who've killed somebody, only 17% of them can account for mother's love. Either the mother is dead, missing, or simply has absolute rift with this child. In other words, a person who kills someone is usually a person who lacks the neurobiological requirement of parenting, whether it be mother or father. And that is why, as a scholar, all the people who've worked with me for years are still in shock that people look at these data that have emerged, and I'm not the only one who've done research on this, and choose to say it's the father who is absent. A child requires at least one stable adult human being in his or her life. That's accepted. Nobody wastes time debating that anymore. It can be a father, it can be a mother. Now, here is where the crux is. A boy actually gains more in his development by having a close relationship with his mother.
You mentioned a favorite book of mine, My Mother Who Fathered Me, by Edith
Edith Clark.
Clark.
Yes.
And I'm actually, as I told you sometime ago, writing the book, My Mother Who Fathered Me, the real story from a boy's perspective of his mother, who I consider my mother the first terrorist that I knew. Why do I say that? And it might make people, because she said, I brought you in this world and I am the one that will take you out. And I believe her. No, I'm not saying that all mothers should tell that to their children, but it worked in my case. And I remember, when I did something, she would behave as if she didn't know. And when she did know, she'd try to run me, but after a while, she couldn't catch me. But when I went to sleep, my mother would take it out on me. Now, some people say that that is wickedness. But I'm telling you something, I will, you know why? Because I am who I am today, because she was strict and there was no father figure present. But what I'm saying to the fathers now, on Father's Day, and this is Men's Month throughout the world, that we have to change that paradigm. And we have to understand, because if I had taken that the approach that my father was such a no-good, that was not involved in my life and was involved with my children, then I would be repeating the whole thing again and again. I'm saying it is time we took our real role and our real responsibility as men in any context, especially in Jamaica, and make sure our boys can use us as examples. And I think it's important, all men, because it takes a village to raise a child.
We can look at children and know that they have a father by very simple test, their confidence. Look at the children who have even an uncle or some father figure in their lives. So fathers are very critical. 75% of children who have a father selects him as the primary role model. This is critical. 25% of all gunmen who've had children, who have had a boy, the boy becomes a gunman, which means that even in the worst case scenario, a father is going to set an example for his children. Can you imagine when, as fathers, we set good examples, then 75% of our children will follow us. Fathers are critical, and therefore, let me just say, Happy Father's Day.
Wonderful.
I'll never leave your side, I'll be here when you call. And there's no judgment, you don't have to be scared at all. If your world comes crashing down, one thing will remain true, that I will always be here watching over you. You are a champion, you are a king, and all the power of the universe dwells within you. You must have confidence, 'cause you're made to win. And if ever you can't hear my voice, just listen inward. I'll give you my ear so you can feel free to talk. Express your ideas and let me hear all your thoughts. And whatever goes down, you can always come to me. 'Cause whether father or friend, whatever you need, I'll be. Stand on my shoulders so you can see that there is nothing in this world you can't achieve. It is your future, and you hold the key. So never be afraid to lead and rule your destiny. Da 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 da. Da 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 da. Watch out for friends who will try to take away what you've earned. Their agenda is hidden, but you've got to discern. 'Cause when the party is over and everyone's had their fun, they've got their own lives to live and you got your race to run. My son, run like a champion, lead like a king. Know all the power of the universe dwells within you. You must have confidence, 'cause you're made to win. And if ever you can't hear my voice, son, just listen inward.